Reporters covering the Winston Cup beat know a headlining story when they see one. Mark Martin's recent success would naturally be a hot topic. Or would it?
Under the car for
just before the Labor Day race in Darlington, Ernie Irvan becomes the new full-time driver for the Robert Yates racing team. No surprise was the weather. A typical summer rainstorm puts the damper on the start of the Mountain Dew Southern 500. Rain delays the start by almost 3 hours. Finally, the race is started under yellow flag conditions. But once under green, Ernie Irvan shows everyone that he has adapted well to the Ford. He and Dale Earnhardt trade the lead and even trade paint a few times. While those two would battle for the lead in the first 100 laps, charging right along and biding his time is Mark Martin. His Ford dials into the track and eventually runs down Earnhardt on lap 189 to take the lead. Later in the race, Irvan brings out a caution flag when his car spins at the entrance to pit road. He gets the car pointed in the right direction and heads back out to an eventual 5th place finish. Ernie's spin gives NASCAR an opportunity to address the impending darkness. Crews and drivers are warned that the race will end in just 10 laps. On the restart, Martin gets a good jump, and drivers Brett Bodine, Rusty Wallace, and Dale Earnhardt are unable to reel him in. Mark takes the 10-lap dash and accepts his 4th checkered flag in a row. Martin's sweep of the month of August and early September tightens the NASCAR Winston Cup point chase. The standings after 22 races look like this. Dale Earnhardt hangs on to first place by 304 points over second place Wallace. Mark Martin is in third, just 3 points behind Rusty. Dale Jarrett holds down the 4th spot, and Morgan Shepherd is in 5th. Under the lights of Richmond International Raceway, Mark Martin stands a good chance of tying the modern stock car era record of 5 wins in a row. Could he do it? Martin got his shot at the lead and the record in the Miller Genuine Draft 400 when leader Rusty Wallace is black flagged for jumping a restart. You could almost sense the sparks flying inside the black and gold Pontiac as Rusty brings his car in for a stop and go penalty. Running well on this night is Bill Elliott, who for most of the season really hasn't been running all that well. Owner Junior Johnson knows that it's only a matter of time before his driver makes a charge for the lead. Rusty Wallace has made a charge back to the front of the pack. On lap 242, Rusty, with help from his speedy crew, get a break in track position. A great pit stop closes the gap between he and leader Mark Martin. 16 laps down the road, Wallace seizes the opportunity and passes Martin to regain the lead. Near the end, racing gets a little physical. Ricky Rudd gives Derek Cope a little tap from behind, which sends Cope's Ford sliding down the back straightaway. The racing gets even a bit rougher down the stretch when everybody tries to leave pit road at once. It sends Ricky Rudd into a spin. He recovers nicely and gets his Chevy back on track. The late cautions help Dale Earnhardt resolve a nagging clutch problem, enough at least to take over third spot. Bill Elliott tries to reel in Wallace, but has to settle for a season-high second-place finish as Rusty hangs on to win his 6th of the season. By winning at Richmond, Rusty was able to narrow the gap on the point leader, Dale Earnhardt. The title chase now moved on to Dover Downs, where Rusty stood to either gain a bunch or lose a lot. In the Splitfire Sparkplug 500 at Dover Downs, teams gamble on lowering the tire pressure to improve handling, but the strategy backfires. Mark Martin rolls the dice, but his car pays for it. After his car hits the wall, Mark tries to ride his fiery wreck to pit road. Eventually, though, he'll choose the wiser option. Just bails out. The turning point of the race comes on the restart at lap number 381. Rusty Wallace bumps into Hut Strickland, who in turn takes out Ricky Rudd and Dale Earnhardt. In the closing 100 laps, laps following the controversial accident, Wallace comes from 2 laps down to outrun Darrell Waltrip and Ken Schrader to take his 7th win of the season.
Every time somebody has a wreck and the guy who hits first is the guy who's at fault. To me, I took on a normal restart, and the 27 car just didn't go. I tapped him in the rear and turned him sideways. And when he turned him sideways, he got with the 3 car. And when the 3 car went, that's what made all the noise. That's what got all the press right there, that one there. So it's too bad it happened. I mean, I didn't mean for it to happen, but that's it.
A touch of pride is in the air at the Martinsville Speedway. The Fords, once driven by Davey Allison and Alan Kowicki, occupy the front row. Jeff Bodine and Ernie Irvin, now driving those cars, are hoping to honor the former drivers with a win in the Goodies 500. The race gets underway with Jeff Bodine showing the way. But in Martinsville, close quarters racing soon spells doom for the drivers. Darrell Waltrip, trying to get up front, gets his car out of shape and collects Sterling Marlin and Bobby Labonte. Jimmy Hensley, driving for the injured Rick Wilson in the 44 Pontiac, gets hammered as well. Ernie Irvin would take over the lead from Bodine on lap 32 and drive almost uncontested throughout the day. Most of the action on the track surrounded the battle between points leader Rusty Wallace and Dale Earnhardt. Wallace gets the upper hand here. Unfortunately for Earnhardt, problems with his Chevy's rear axle causes him to exit the race with 60 laps to go. He'd finish in 29th spot. But the emotion belongs to Irvin and the Robert Gates Racing Team as the 28 car accepts the checkered flag and rolls into victory lane.
All the time I kept thinking, Davey never made it to victory lane here. Bobby never has. And everybody had their own idea what they wanted to do for victory lane. I've been wearing this shirt since I started driving this car. I knew we could do it. This is for Davey.
5 races remain. Though Ernie Irvin sits on the pole for the 2nd race in a row, the battle for number 1 is heating up between Dale Earnhardt and Rusty Wallace. Before the entire field can even accept the green flag for the Tyson Holly Farms 400, there's problems everywhere. Cars at the start-finish line getting bent every which way but loose. Watch again from Morgan Shepherd's car as he comes to the start-finish line. In the aftermath, the cars of Jeff Gordon, Jeff Bodine, and Shepherd sit helplessly on the front straightaway. The lead changed hands several times early as Kyle Petty, Rick Mast, and Terry Labonte all looked strong before giving way to Rusty Wallace on lap 160. But Dale Earnhardt starts to close in on Rusty, and on lap 239, Dale takes the lead. As the day wears on, the Chevrolet of Earnhardt won't respond to Dale's desires to drive low on the racetrack. Earnhardt's high line around the speedway helps Rusty Wallace reel him in. And so, with 101 laps remaining, Rusty passes Earnhardt for good and holds on for his 8th victory of the year. Rusty's win brings him closer to Earnhardt in the point championship. With 4 races to go, here's how it looks. Dale Earnhardt with 3,877 points. He maintains a 72-point margin over second place Rusty Wallace. Dale Jarrett holds on to 3rd over Mark Martin. And Morgan Shepherd rounds out the top 5. The nonstop focus on the Winston Cup point battle was somewhat silenced when the teams returned to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Rookie Jeff Gordon reminded Winston Cup veterans that the future was coming fast by capturing the Busch pole for the start of the Mellow Yellow 500. On the first lap, Ernie Irvin's Ford is just flying. He overtakes Gordon's Chevrolet going into turn 3. And in short order, Ernie Irvin opens up a commanding lead. A few laps later, Dale Earnhardt has moved up from his 9th starting spot to challenge Gordon for 2nd. The 2 race into the corner side by side, but for the moment, it's Gordon who's in control. The race is run virtually caution-free until Todd Bodine loses an engine and crashes into the wall coming out of turn 4. Earnhardt manages to catch Irvin on lap 162 and take the lead. Dale only leads for 3 laps, but by doing so picks up 5 valuable bonus points. A late caution flag sets up the final 22 laps of racing. Take a look at